I was barefoot, shaking, and bleeding from the soles of my feet when I burst out of that bathroom window. Behind me, I could hear my mother screaming my name, her voice sharp like broken glass. They thought they had me cornered, dressed in the wedding clothes they had picked out for me, ready to hand me over to a man 3 times my age. A man whose first wife was said to be dead. A man whose second wife had vanished without a trace. But I ran. At 15 years old, with nothing but a crumpled pamphlet hidden in my bra and the desperate hope that someone, anyone, would believe me, I ran. To understand how I got here, I need to go back to the beginning. My childhood was quiet. At least, that's what it looked like from the outside. We lived in a small house with peeling blue paint in a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone else's business. The air always smelled faintly of smoke from the cooking fires, and the walls inside our home were so thin that I could hear every argument, every whispered conversation late at night. But on the surface, I was just another girl. I went to school, carried water, helped cook rice, laughed with the other kids. What no one knew was that from the time I was 12, my future had already been sold. The man was called Uncle by some of the adults. But he wasn't anyone's uncle. He was rich, old, with a thick mustache and a belly that strained against his shirts. People whispered about him. They said his wives had bad luck, that his first one died of sickness, that the second ran away. The whispers never made sense, but as a child, I didn't question them until one afternoon in class. It was history period, and our teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, had left a stack of pamphlets on her desk. They were colorful, with bold words I'd never seen before. Legal rights for minors. Protection against forced marriage. I remember reaching out, sliding one into my notebook when she wasn't looking. Something about the word protection burned in my chest. That night, under my blanket with a flashlight, I read every word. For the first time, I saw the law on paper. I saw the word illegal. I saw numbers, 18 years, the legal age of marriage. I saw phone numbers for hotlines, names of shelters, and that's when I understood. My family was planning something wrong. After that, everything changed for me. I started pretending I wasn't hungry. I'd hide food under my mattress, give it away to stray dogs, anything to shrink myself. If my body didn't grow, if my chest didn't fill out, maybe they'd think I wasn't ready. Maybe I'd buy myself time. My mother scolded me for looking thin. My aunt pressed oily food into my hands. But I'd smile, nod, and throw it away the moment no one was watching. Meanwhile, I became a secret teacher. The pamphlet was my textbook. At school, I whispered to the other girls. I told them what the law said. I showed them the numbers to call. We were children pretending to be spies, passing notes in class that said, "You are allowed to say no." For months, I thought I was clever. I thought I was ahead of them. But then came the morning that shattered everything. It was just after sunrise. The house smelled of incense. My mother's face was stern, her lips pressed tight. She told me to put on the dress. It wasn't just any dress. It was the one I had seen hanging in the corner of her closet for weeks, wrapped in plastic. White lace, stiff and itchy, with cheap sequins that scratched at my skin. My stomach dropped when she said the word marriage. I tried to argue. I said I was too young. I said it was against the law. But the slap came fast, hot against my cheek. "Don't shame us," she hissed. That was when I knew they weren't going to wait. They were going to hand me over that very day. My heart pounded so loud I thought it would burst. My father was in the next room speaking with men's voices I didn't recognize. The sound of deep laughter, glasses clinking. I caught the name of the man. Him. The one with the mustache. I felt sick. I asked to use the bathroom, my voice steady even though my whole body was shaking. My mother narrowed her eyes but let me go. Inside the bathroom, I locked the door and stared at the tiny window above the sink. It was small, but maybe, just maybe. I climbed onto the toilet, pushed the window open, and felt the first rush of cool morning air on my face. My legs trembled as I hoisted myself up, scraping my knees against the rough wall. My heart was hammering so loud I thought they'd hear it outside. And then, I jumped. The ground tore at my feet, sharp gravel cutting into my skin. But I didn't stop. I ran, hair flying, dress snagging on branches, until my lungs burned and my vision blurred. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get away. That's how it began. My escape. But running away was only the first step. What I didn't know yet was how far my family would go to hunt me down, and that the man I thought had buried his first wife hadn't buried her at all. When I hit the ground running that morning, I didn't know if I would survive the day. My feet were already bleeding from the gravel. The dress clung to me like a prison, heavy and stiff, making it harder to move. The morning air was sharp, filled with the sound of roosters crowing and faraway voices rising from the houses. Every sound made me jump. I kept looking over my shoulder, terrified that my uncle, or husband-to-be, I should say, would come stomping after me or worse, that my father would catch me and drag me back inside. I didn't even think about where I was going. My body just kept moving. The world blurred into colors. The gray dust of the road, the green blur of trees, the red slash of blood dripping from my feet. I only stopped when my lungs gave out and my throat felt like fire. That's when I saw the small, cracked building with faded paint. The school, something inside me whispered, "Go there." The gates weren't even open yet. I banged on them with both hands, frantic, until finally a woman peeked out. Ms. Rodriguez. Her face changed the second she saw me, sweaty, pale, bleeding, dressed like a broken doll. "Dios mío," she whispered, rushing to open the gate. "What happened to you?" I didn't even have words. The sobs tore out of me like they had been trapped for years. "They're trying to marry me," I gasped. Today, I ran. Her eyes hardened in a way I had never seen before. She didn't waste time with more questions. She pulled me inside, locked the gate, and led me into her office. Her office smelled like chalk and lavender. She grabbed a first aid kit from a cabinet and began cleaning my feet with steady hands, though her eyes kept flicking toward the window, alert. "You're safe here for now," she said. "But they will come." I looked up at her, panicked. "They'll find me?" She nodded, grim. "Families like this? They don't let go easily," I shivered. I felt like a hunted animal. That was when she pulled something from her desk drawer, a thick folder. Inside were papers, numbers, forms. She laid them out in front of me like a deck of cards. "These," she said, "are your weapons. The law is on your side. You're 15. That marriage is illegal." I stared at the words, the same ones I had memorized from that pamphlet months ago. But seeing them here in her hands felt different. More real. Within hours, Ms. Rodriguez was on the phone. I sat curled up on the chair, hugging my knees, while she spoke in a voice that was both calm and sharp. She called the authorities, explained the situation, demanded immediate action. By noon, 2 women from a child protection agency showed up. They wore neat blouses and carried clipboards, but their eyes were kind. One of them took my hand. "We're going to get you somewhere safe," she promised. Safe. The word echoed in my head like a prayer, but nothing about what followed felt safe. That first night, they placed me in a safe house with a couple who looked like ordinary neighbors. They gave me clean clothes, bandaged my feet, and made me soup. I should have felt relieved, but every sound outside made my heart leap. I barely slept, clutching the pamphlet in my pocket like it was a holy charm. By the second night, the threats began. The safe house phone rang, and when the woman picked up, her face tightened. She covered the receiver, whispering, "It's them, my family." They had found the number somehow. They were demanding I be returned. They called me brainwashed, said I was dishonoring them, accused Ms. Rodriguez of corrupting me. The couple reassured me, but I could see the worry in their eyes. That was the first time I realized this wasn't going to end quickly. The following week felt like a blur of hiding and moving. I was placed with 3 different guardians in just 7 days, shuffled around so my family couldn't track me. Each time, I had to stuff my few belongings into a bag and leave in the dead of night, driven down empty roads by strangers who whispered, "Don't worry, you're safe now." But I didn't feel safe. Not when I woke up to news that my father had been going to local shops, showing my school photo, asking if anyone had seen me. Not when my mother posted on community boards that I had been kidnapped. The worst was when one safe house was broken into. It happened on the 5th night. I was asleep on the couch when the sound of splintering wood jolted me awake. The couple who sheltered me screamed. Heavy footsteps thudded inside. My blood ran cold. I crawled under the couch, heart racing, listening to male voices yelling my name. My body froze so hard it hurt. It took the police nearly 20 minutes to arrive, and by then the intruders had vanished. The couple moved me out that very night. I never went back. Through it all, Ms. Rodriguez never left my side. She visited every safe house, checked in daily, fought for me like I was her own daughter. One afternoon, when I was at my lowest, she sat across from me at a kitchen table and said, "Listen, they want to break you with fear. But you are stronger than them. You've already done what most girls can't. You ran. That means you can finish this." Her words were a lifeline. The case built slowly. My lawyer, another woman with steel in her eyes, filed for an emergency protective order. That piece of paper became my shield. It meant my family couldn't legally contact me. But of course, the law on paper is not the same as the law in reality. They still sent people to reason with me. Uncles, cousins, even neighbors showed up outside hearings, whispering that I should come home. They promised forgiveness. They promised things would be different, but I remembered my mother's hand slapping my face. I remembered the man's laugh in my living room. I remembered the window, the gravel, the blood. No promise could erase that. The court date was set, and even though I was terrified, a tiny spark of hope burned inside me. Because there was one rumor I hadn't forgotten, the whispers about the man's first wife. The one everyone said had died. What if she hadn't? I didn't know it then, but the truth was about to walk into that courtroom and change everything. The day of court felt like walking into the lion's den. I woke up before dawn in the safe house. My guardian handed me a simple blue dress, something modest but strong-looking. "You'll want to feel comfortable," she said softly. My hands shook as I buttoned it. I wasn't sure I would ever feel comfortable again. The ride to the courthouse was silent. I pressed my forehead against the car window, watching the city pass by in a blur of gray concrete and honking cars. My stomach churned so badly I thought I might be sick. When we arrived, the building loomed over me like a monster, tall, cold, its glass doors reflecting the cloudy sky. I wanted to run, but Ms. Rodriguez's hand pressed lightly against my back, steadying me. "You've already survived the hardest part," she whispered. "Now it's time to speak." Inside, the air smelled like paper and coffee. My lawyer guided me down the hallway toward the courtroom, her heels clicking sharply on the tile. My heart thudded with every step, and then I saw them, my family. My father sat stiff-backed in a suit he had probably borrowed. His jaw was set, eyes blazing when he saw me. My mother clutched a handkerchief, pretending to cry, though I knew those tears were not for me. Behind them were my uncles, cousins, neighbors, all glaring at me like I was a traitor. The sight of them almost made my knees buckle. "You're okay," my lawyer murmured. "Don't look at them." "Look straight ahead," I tried. But the weight of their stares burned holes in my skin. When the session began, my father's lawyer painted me as a runaway. He called me unstable. He said I had been manipulated by outside influences, glancing pointedly at Ms. Rodriguez. My mother even took the stand. She spoke about how much they loved me, how they only wanted the best for me, how I had been confused. Her voice trembled with rehearsed sorrow. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shout the truth so loudly it would shake the walls. But when my turn finally came, my throat closed up. The judge's eyes softened as he looked at me. "Take your time," he said gently. I gripped the edge of the witness stand, nails digging into the wood. My voice cracked as I told them everything. About the dress, about the slap, about the man with the mustache, about climbing through the bathroom window barefoot, blood staining the gravel. I thought I saw the judge's jaw tighten at that part. Still, doubt hung heavy in the room. My family's lawyer sneered, twisting every word I said. "She's a child," he insisted. "How can we trust her account?" My chest caved in. I could feel the tide turning against me. And then the door opened. A woman walked in. Thin, pale, with deep lines etched into her face. She wore a plain dress and carried a cane. At first, I didn't recognize her. But then I saw my father's face blanch, saw my mother's hand fly to her mouth, and I knew. The whispers rippled through the room like electricity. She was supposed to be dead. The man's first wife. Alive. The bailiff escorted her to the front, where she was sworn in. The courtroom fell silent as she took the stand. Her hand shook as she gripped the microphone, but her voice, though quiet, was steady. "My name is Amira," she said, "and I was married to the man they wanted to force this girl to marry." The air seemed to freeze. Amira began to tell her story. How she had been married at 16. How the man had beaten her, locked her inside for days without food. How she had tried to run more than once but had been dragged back. Her voice cracked when she described the night she almost died. How she escaped only because a neighbor helped her slip away in the dark. She had been living under a new name ever since, too afraid to come forward, until she heard about me. "He doesn't want wives," she said finally, her eyes burning. "He wants prisoners. He wants victims. If this girl had been forced into that house, she would not have survived." The silence afterward was so heavy it rang in my ears. I dared to glance at my parents. My father's face was stone, unreadable. My mother looked like she might faint. My uncles muttered angrily, shifting in their seats. But for the first time, I felt the weight lift off my chest. I wasn't alone. I wasn't just a scared girl making accusations. Here was proof. Flesh and blood. A living ghost come back to speak the truth. The judge cleared his throat, his expression grave. "This testimony changes everything." For the rest of the hearing, the energy was different. My lawyer spoke with more confidence, driving the point home. This was not just about me, but about a pattern of abuse, about the danger girls faced when families treated them as property. When it ended, the judge didn't make his ruling immediately. He said he needed time to review, but his tone was firm. Until then, I was under protection. No one could touch me. It wasn't victory yet, but it was hope. That night, back at the safe house, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Amira's face haunted me. The lines on her skin, the heaviness in her eyes. She had carried her story in silence for so many years. And still, when she heard about me, she came forward. I realized then that survival wasn't just about running. It was about speaking, about breaking the silence that trapped us. I made a promise to myself. If I ever got out of this, I wouldn't just live quietly. I would use my voice, and I would make sure no other girl had to jump barefoot out of a bathroom window to save her life. But my family wasn't finished with me yet. The next day, word spread that they were planning something desperate, something that could destroy everything I had fought for, and I was about to find out just how far they would go. After Amira testified, I thought things would calm down. I thought my family would retreat in shame, but instead, they came back harder. The days leading up to the final ruling were some of the darkest of my life. It started with the letters. Handwritten notes slipped under the safe house door at night. Some begged me to come home. Others cursed me. One was just a single sentence scrawled in my father's handwriting. "You are no daughter of mine." I tore that one up, but the words stayed lodged in my chest like broken glass. Then came the rumors. My family spread lies all through the community. They said I was possessed. They said Ms. Rodriguez was using me to get fame. They even claimed I had a secret boyfriend and ran away in disgrace. Every time I saw the looks on neighbors' faces when we passed by the courthouse, I knew the lies were working, but the worst was the night of the phone call. The safe house had changed locations again. By then, I had lost count of how many doors I'd walked through, how many beds I'd slept in that weren't mine. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my guardian when the phone rang. She answered. Her face drained of color. She held the receiver out to me. "It's your mother." My hand trembled as I took it. "Come home," my mother's voice pleaded, low and urgent. "This has gone too far. You've shamed us enough. But if you come back now, we will forgive you." I swallowed hard. "Forgive me? For what?" "For turning on your family," she snapped, the sweetness vanishing. "For listening to strangers. You think they will protect you? You think they care? You're just a case to them. But we are your blood." I bit down on my lip so hard it bled. "You were going to sell me," I whispered. There was a silence. Then she said the words that nearly broke me. "If you don't come back, we will pray you are cursed. You will die alone. No one will ever love you." The line went dead. I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing until I couldn't breathe. My guardian wrapped her arms around me, whispering, "She's trying to scare you. Don't listen. You are loved. You are worthy." But the poison of my mother's words stayed inside me. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking maybe she was right. Maybe I had destroyed everything. Maybe no matter what the court decided, I would always be the girl who betrayed her family. The next court session was worse. My father's lawyer brought in neighbors to testify against me. They stood there, people I had known my whole life, saying I was rebellious, that I lied often, that I was easily influenced. Each word landed like a stone on my chest. When it was over, I sat in the hallway shaking, my head in my hands. I told Ms. Rodriguez, I can't do this anymore. They've already decided who I am. They'll never believe me. She crouched down, her eyes fierce. Listen to me. You are stronger than all of them put together. Do you know why? Because you told the truth. They are fighting with lies, and lies always crumble. Her words lit a tiny fire inside me. But it flickered weakly. 2 days before the final ruling, something happened that reignited it. Amira came to see me. She sat across from me in the safe house living room, her cane resting against her leg. Her face was tired, but her eyes were steady. I wanted you to know, she said softly, that you saved me too. For years, I thought my story would die with me. I thought no one would ever care. But you ran. You fought. And because of that, I found the courage to speak. Her words made my throat ache. You're not alone, she said firmly, taking my hand. No matter what they say about you, no matter what happens in that courtroom, you are not alone. For the first time in weeks, I believed it. The morning of the final ruling arrived gray and heavy, like the sky itself was holding its breath. The courthouse was packed. I could feel the heat of bodies pressing in, the eyes boring into me as I walked past rows of familiar faces. My family sat together in a hard, angry knot. My father didn't even look at me. My mother's eyes were wet, but I knew those tears weren't for me. They were for the control she had lost. I sat at the front with my lawyer, my hands clasped so tightly they turned white. The judge entered. Everyone stood. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear the words as the session began. This was it. Months of fear, nights of hiding, the endless moving from house to house, all of it had led to this moment. The judge cleared his throat, shuffled his papers, and looked straight at me. In the matter of protective custody for? And then he paused. The room went still. What he said next would decide whether I was free or whether my family could drag me back into the nightmare. The judge's voice seemed to echo through the room, even though he spoke calmly. In the matter of protective custody for... He paused again, scanning the papers, then looked at me directly. This court recognizes that the petitioner is a minor, that forced marriage is illegal under state and federal law, and that credible evidence of coercion and abuse has been presented. My stomach clenched. My nails dug into my palms. Therefore, he said firmly, this court grants a permanent protective order. Effective immediately, the minor is placed under state protection. The family has no legal right to pursue, contact, or remove her against her will. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Then the words sank in. I was free. The courtroom erupted into noise. My mother cried out, clutching at my father's arm. My uncles shouted in anger, their voices rising like thunder. My father stood frozen, his jaw so tight I thought his teeth would break. But I didn't look at them. I looked at Ms. Rodriguez, whose eyes brimmed with tears as she squeezed my hand. I looked at Amira, who sat in the back with her cane, nodding at me with quiet pride. I looked at the judge, whose face was stern, but just. I was free. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed, microphones shoved toward me. How do you feel? What's next for you? What message do you have for other girls? The questions blurred together. My lawyer shielded me. Ms. Rodriguez guided me through the chaos. But one sentence slipped from my lips before I could stop it. I'm never going back. And I meant it. That night, the safe house felt different. Quieter, lighter. I wasn't just a fugitive anymore. I wasn't waiting for the next knock on the door, the next phone call, the next lie. But there was grief too, because with that ruling came finality. My family had disowned me. I wasn't their daughter anymore. The thought burned deep in my chest, like a hole that would never close. I cried myself to sleep that night, mourning the parents I wished I had, the love that had never really been mine. The weeks that followed were a strange mix of healing and rebuilding. I was enrolled in a new school under a new name. I stayed with guardians who helped me start therapy, something I had never even known existed. For the first time, I had my own room, my own bed, my own closet filled with clothes I had chosen myself. Freedom tasted sweet, but it also felt fragile. I woke from nightmares, heart pounding, convinced my father would burst through the door. I still flinched when strangers raised their voices, but slowly, piece by piece, I learned how to live again. It was Amira who gave me the idea. We were sitting on a park bench one afternoon, sipping tea from paper cups when she said, there are so many girls like us, still trapped, still thinking they have no way out. I thought of the notes I had passed in school, the whispers in the hallway, the girls who had clutched my hand when I told them they had rights, and I knew she was right. So I started small. I photocopied the pamphlets Ms. Rodriguez had once given me. I wrote down hotlines, addresses of shelters, the number of the lawyer who had fought for me. I slipped them into library books, school bathrooms, church pews, and then I started talking. Quietly at first, then louder. At youth groups, at schools, even on online forums. I shared my story, barefoot, bloody feet, the bathroom window. I told girls, you are not property. You are not alone. You can run. Word spread. What began as a handful of pamphlets became something bigger. A network. Girls reaching out to me. Guardians volunteering safe houses. Teachers secretly slipping me names of students who needed help. I was just 15, but I had become part of something larger than myself. A movement. Years later, when I looked back, it still felt surreal. That one morning when I woke up in a white lace dress thinking my life was over. That one bathroom window. That one desperate choice to run. It became the moment that changed everything, not just for me, but for so many others. Sometimes I still think about my family, about the little house with peeling blue paint, about my mother's voice, sharp and pleading all at once, about my father's stony silence. I wonder if they ever regret it, if they ever wish they had chosen love instead of control. But I don't wait for their answers anymore, because I've found my own family, built not by blood, but by choice, by courage, by survival. And if you're listening to this story right now, if you're a girl sitting in your room thinking there's no way out, hear me. There is always a way. I found mine barefoot, bleeding through a bathroom window. You can find yours too. Thank you for listening to my story. If you were hooked all the way through, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life stories that need to be heard.